My word, the madman at Nintendo and Koei Tecmo actually did it. They made a sequel to Hyrule Warriors. Not only that, but it serves as a prequel to Breath of the Wild that we've been begging for since, it came out. I honestly couldn't have thought of a better way to do it either, considering the DLC is kinda lackluster. I mean, come on. Hyrule Warriors and thus Dynasty Warriors is a game about flashy and fun combat and warfare, and that's exactly what the era 100 years ago was. Warfare. Now, since this game is fairly new, I'm going to give a spoiler warning now. I put this new review style and the AM2R review on hold for this, so I hope you enjoy it. Before you go, though, I want to give my more general opinions. This game is a lot slower than Hyrule Warriors, but a lot more cinematic. This feels a lot cooler to play, but the original is snappier. The graphics are more vibrant than Breath of the Wild, which is something that I was concerned about. Breath of the Wild can look a bit muddy and bland at times, but there's no such problem here. I love this art style. The gameplay has also been changed a bit. Items are removed for something else that I will talk about in the spoiler section, and you can now headshot enemies by hitting their weak point, like in Breath of the Wild. The weak point gauge returns, but now it's a one-shot on most enemies due to their low health pools. Every character now also has a unique action to them when you press the ZR button. Hearts also no longer drop, and you need to use healing items to heal. These additions make for a familiar enough experience to still be Hyrule Warriors, but a new enough one to make it feel fresh. The map also has a few things to do that take place of the few actions that were in the Bazaar. Like, this point gives you more buttons to use in combos. It also takes the place of the adventure mode in tiles like these. I like this a lot. Moving on. Finally, the characters feel really nice, and with everybody having a paraglider, this allows for crazy combos. This is a really fun game on the gameplay side, and I'm very happy about that. I won't give my rating right at the start, but if you want to hear my conclusion where I do give my rating, skip to this timestamp to avoid full spoilers. I'll give you a second to skip there. Now, I've got that out of the way. Let's get into it. While I mentioned before how things were different, I want to quickly touch on the things that are the same. Each warrior has a weapon slot that can be filled with any weapon that you may have. The controls are almost completely the same. A few changes are how the runes and items are used. It's different enough to mess with my muscle memory while fighting, but I can work with it. This isn't to say that the controls are bad, but it's different from the original. The character roster is obviously different, but Link himself has a very similar moveset to the one in the original Hyrule Warriors when you're using a one-handed sword. Now, as far as what these new gameplay changes do for the game, I like it. I like it a lot. Aside from messing with my muscle memory, I think it only distinguishes this game from its predecessor, but that makes it more fun in certain areas. The runes and rods add a whole lot more fun to the combat, and since they replace the items, they're a lot less situational. The paraglider allows me to extend my aerial combos as Link, and this is highly appreciated when I'm trying to do cool stuff. The lack of dropped hearts make the game a lot more difficult in general. In the original Hyrule Warriors, if you were low on health, you could just cut grass to get more health, and that made it far too easy. Even if you couldn't do that, you could just upgrade your warrior to get better and more potions. This solves this issue to an extent. This system requires you to rely on drops to heal yourself instead of having an instant win button at your disposal at all times. As for gameplay changes I didn't go into in the intro because I didn't want to spoil them, there are quite a few. As I mentioned earlier, your items are replaced with rods and runes. I really like this change. I hardly got any use out of the items in Hyrule Warriors 1. Here they're an integral part of my fighting style. This goes for both the runes and elemental rods. Speaking of, I should probably explain those. The runes are the same ones as the base 4 in Breath of the Wild. Bombs deal damage directly to the weak point gauge no matter what. They also deal a decent amount of knockback to smaller enemies. Stasis worked exactly how Stasis Plus worked in Breath of the Wild. It pauses enemies in time so you can wail on them. Cryonis is basically a jump button. However, if an enemy is in water, they'll be frozen. You can also use it when an enemy is charging to do massive damage. And when they're frozen, you will deal automatic critical hits, and I call them crits from now on, so get used to hearing that, meaning that it will deal double damage. Magnesis allows you to manipulate metal objects and fling them at an enemy's face. Each rune can also counter certain moves and attacks of larger enemies. Most of these are situational, but fun, plus they can be upgraded later. The rods are a lot more simple. You have a meter representative of their ammo, which, again, can be upgraded later. You can collect more ammo by killing certain enemies. 3 elemental rods you can find in Breath of the Wild are here, and they all serve similar uses, and all deal somewhat decent damage. You can get them by killing Wizros, and I, again, really like this. It means I want to look for them. Ammo for them can also be hidden elsewhere. Now, I want to go into how much all this improves the combat. First of all, there are a lot more ranged options. In the original Hyrule Warriors, pretty much any attack had absolutely zero range, meaning that you had to get close to deal damage. Attacks that did have decent range didn't allow you to hit enemies from even remotely far away unless you were moving along with it. The bow item even had surprisingly short range and utterly pitiful damage. Even Lynel, a crossbow user, had about as much range as Ganondorf when he dual-wields his swords. In Age of Calamity, remote bombs are a very viable ranged option. Link even has a rapid-fire bow with a range you'd expect a bow to have when, again, you're using a one-hander. Aerial attacks are also a lot more prevalent in this game. Still no jump button, but you can wall jump to get in the air if you don't have an attack that already does that. Cryonis also does the same thing, like I mentioned before. Some enemies like Keese almost require aerial attacks. The Paraglider, as mentioned before, allows you to extend combos in the air by allowing you to save your aerial attacks for when you need it. Combine this with the headshot mechanic from Breath of the Wild, and you can cleave through almost anything with enough skill. Mixing these new features with the combo system of the rest of the Warriors games provides a really fun combat system. Every character is way more complex than anyone in the original Hyrule Warriors, and they feel so cool to play. But not only are the characters way more complex, but the enemies are. I mentioned in my Medieval review that enemies in Dynasty Warriors were pushovers. Not here. Even in normal mode, several groups of enemies, bigger enemies, and even bosses gave me trouble. And yes, I did say bosses. Enemies like Lynels and Igniotaluses are now bosses that appear in stages. Lynels specifically are way scarier. I hunt Lynels for sport in Breath of the Wild, and I'm very good at it. Age of Calamity gives them several new attacks, and they change the timing on the flurry rushes dramatically, making the Lynels move at what seems double speed. Taluses are also a lot harder because you are unable to directly climb on them and wail on their weak spots. Instead, you have to down them to get on the correct side to climb up. There are more than these types, but these are the bosses that you will find most often. And bosses are usually the enemies where weak points are not a one-shot, even early on. Mix these bosses with longer and more complex stages than the original Hyrule Warriors, and you have some crunchy and satisfying gameplay. However, the sound design comes in clutch to make it feel even better. A lot of sound effects were taken directly from Breath of the Wild, but the enemy sounds of object breaking, the rune and rod sounds, and even the voice acting add to the experience. I wasn't much of a fan of the voice acting in Breath of the Wild, but here, aside from maybe Impa and Zelda's voice in a few places, is extremely nice to listen to. Speaking of listening to stuff, how's the soundtrack? Well, sadly the metal's gone. I mean, I can understand why. It still sounds nice, don't get me wrong, but I love the soundtrack, but do I love it more than the original Hyrule Warriors? No, not at all. The amount of fist-pumping, head-banging gifts from Hylia in the form of electric guitar-infused Zelda tracks cannot be topped. Hands down, that game has the best soundtrack on all video gaming. I unironically listened to almost every song on that soundtrack. Age of Calamity is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but it's very hard to top the original Hyrule Warriors. The best way I can describe the difference in soundtracks and games overall is simple. Hyrule Warriors 1 has a lot more fan service. Not in the anime way, you weebs, I see you back there, but in the fact that it contains a lot of references, returning characters, and remixes for longtime fans. However, the game is not nearly as fleshed out and robust as Age of Calamity. Age of Calamity is a way better game, but there isn't as much to find as a longtime fan. And the soundtrack is not as perfect. I ultimately play for gameplay, so Age of Calamity will probably be my go-to, but Hyrule Warriors 1 is still really fun. Before I get into my thoughts on the individual characters, I want to go over the things that I couldn't fit anywhere. That being the graphics, Koroks, AI, and new enemy types. Starting with the graphics, that is one of, if not the best looking game I've ever laid eyes on. I touched on this in the intro, but wow, the colors pop in this game. The effects are also complete eye candy. The sword flashes don't feel overdone, and the ambient effects like weather look even better than they did in Breath of the Wild. Unlike Hyrule Warriors 1, there are very few frame drops, and I pretty much only experienced them in the final level. And I can highly appreciate that, since I can consistently play at 60 frames per second, unlike when Hyrule Warriors 1 dropped down to like 15 when Link did an aerial spin attack. Koroks can be found all over the place. They're the best way to get free Korok seeds, which you need for Hetsu stuff and expanding the weapon inventory. Yeah, that's it. That's really all I had down for this, so go away, I guess. The new enemy types are mostly just elemental variants of moblins and other creatures. They serve as mini-bosses, like their counterparts, and are a bit more difficult to take down than normal variants. That is, unless you use the rods. While this makes the game easier, I still like this, as it's in Breath of the Wild to begin with, meaning the mechanics are consistent. Standard types cover Moblins, Lynels, Hinoxes, Stone Taluses, Guardians, and they even come in electric, fire, and ice, and of course, multi-difficulty color variants, except for Guardians. Every big enemy except for Moblins also has a Malice variant, and these suck to fight. They're the hardest versions that have huge amounts of health. The Blights make their stand as full-on bosses alongside Lynels, Moldugas, and Taluses. Each one retains their abilities in Breath of the Wild, and I'll give a fairly decent challenge if you don't have a lot of healing items and rod ammo, which get really scarce by the endgame. The only feasible way to beat them is to Flurry Rush, use runes, and special attacks, which do damage and then reveal their weak point gauge in this game, which, by the way, special attacks are way more useful. Even still, their gauges take a lot of damage to bring down. Now, the most juicy part, besides maybe the story, and don't worry, I'll get to that piece of crap in a bit. Anyway, the characters. These are all extremely fun to play. They're a lot more complex, so I'll go into a lot more depth with each this time. Rather than make a really crappy top 10 list, side note, I thought that list was so poorly made that I legitimately went and watched hundreds of list videos to try to make my top 10 list better than that. Wait, I'm getting really sidetracked. Link plays very similarly to his Hyrule Warriors 1 counterpart when using one-handed weapons. The exception to this is the Master Sword, which isn't completely broken. The Master Sword is balanced. In fact, some weapons, when looking at the base alone, are better than the Master Sword. The smithy is what makes it better than average. The only added benefit is lasers at full health and being able to hit the weak point gauge of hollows with every attack. The sword's unique action is firing a bow, giving another option to further shred weak points, but also some range. Spears they're weird. They have a long combo string from the get-go, and they do low damage per hit, but they've got a rapid hit rate. A lot of spears aren't worth using in my opinion, because while they can be fun, shredding weak points with them is a whole lot harder. I was stuck using one for a fight with Suga, the only non-monster mini-boss, and it kind of screwed me over. Like I said, Link with spears can be fun, but it's not really worth your time unless you just want to switch it up. Spears have a charge attack that takes place of their unique action. Now, two-handed weapons is where it's at. The unique action is the crux of this weapon type. If you mix the unique action with combos, you unleash a sacrifice strong attack. These attacks take away health but do insane damage. Provided you don't get hit, you can actually heal back that temporary damage just by pressing X while standing still. This is an awesome risk-reward system that is extremely thrilling to use. Looking back, I probably should have used these weapons more because these are so fun. Impa is... how do I say? Extremely fun. The crux of her gameplay revolves around getting 3 symbols to power up all of your attacks. Yes, even your special attack. Impa has another risk-reward system that makes her balanced, but is extremely strong. When you have 3 symbols, you shred through everything. But when you have none, you're the second weakest character in the cast. Generating and absorbing symbols takes time, and it doesn't always work like you'd like it to. So either you need a lot of health, or to be smart about timing the generation of your symbols. Zelda is a unique case. She's simultaneously the weakest and one of the strongest characters in the cast. If you're using the Sheikah Slate as a weapon, she's borderline useless. If you use the Bow of Light, though, she's pretty good. The Sheikah Slate uses different runes as low damage attacks, some of which having to be manually activated by ZR. Zelda sucks up until late game where you unlock the Bow of Light, which is Zelda using her full power. If you build up some special attack gauge, you can unleash ultra powerful attacks from your luminescent form by using the unique action. This works like Young Link from the first game, but instead of filling the magic meter, you take directly from your special attack meter. Mipha plays very similar to Link, but you can actually heal allies and make waterfalls. Mipha's just really fun to play, but it's pretty standard. Same with Daruk actually. The Magma mechanic and always protective shield is cool, but otherwise, he's a bit bland to play. I don't know why these two couldn't have been fleshed out as the other champions, at least in my experience, but whatever. Ravioli flies. Yep, that's it. That and Ranger is defining traits. His unique action is flight, and it makes so that standard enemies can't hurt you. Moblins and better can though, so watch out. His weapon of choice is a bow, and he has huge range, but once again only in the air. He is practically useless on the ground, and he never gets an upgrade for grounded combat. He does start off as a villain though, so that's interesting. Urbosa's lightning gauge makes her one of the most unique characters in the cast. Her strong attacks all use the gauge, and using a special attack actually fills it. She's fast, very fast, and hits like a truck. However, her hitboxes are small to balance her out. That doesn't stop her from being one of the most powerful characters in the game, though. Hestu is one of the 3 joke characters in the game, and I used him, like, twice. He's not good. Moving on. No. Please stop. Just... Why are you the way that you are? Sidon is a Rhythm Heaven player's dream. If you have the right timing during combos, you can boost the power of your strong attacks with your smile and optimism. Never gone, my friend. Sidon is up there with Link, Impa, Urbosa, and one other as one of the best characters in the game. Plus, he dual wields tridents. How cool is that? Plus, his dash animation has him surfing on a fish made of water. He's so cool, if a bit of a revenge-crazed psychopath with mid-battle lines like, "Such ecstasy" when beating a strong opponent. Riju and Teba were disappointments. They were more standard characters, but they're still kind of fun. Riju's a bit hard to control and visualize hitboxes. She's fighting using Patricia the Sand Seal, which means her hitboxes are long. It also may just be me, but she doesn't seem to do a whole lot of damage. Teba is just grounded Ravioli with a charge shot. He does get upgrades, but I still think he's kind of lame. Yunobo is... well, Yunobo. He's just weak. His unique action gives him protection from certain things, but otherwise he's just weaker Daruk. Daruk already wasn't the best character, and since Yunobo fights with his fist, it's just kind of underwhelming. I don't like him too much. He was the only one I genuinely didn't enjoy as in the entire cast. Master Koga is the 3rd and final joke character, and he is the most powerful joke character in the history of joke characters. Heck, he even eclipses Steve from Smash Ultimate. I'd even go as far as saying that he may be more powerful than Golden Rod and Donald. Master Koga's unique action is a big glowy blast. Yes, that's literally what it's called. It's a secondary meter that fills from certain strong attacks. This acts like bombs, doing damage direct to the weak point gauge. But it's very strong. Keep in mind, this is coming from the goofiest character in the cast. Final character is King Rome. He's probably the coolest character in any Dynasty Warriors game. He can change between the old man from the Great Plateau using a double axe, and the king using a royal claymore. You can even do it mid-combo to extend it further. His combos are extremely cool and flow into each other if you switch just at the right time. Out of all of these, Link, Impa, Mipha, Sidon, and Koga are my favorites. Speaking of Sidon, well, why is he here? Well, like everything about this story, it's complicated. It's funny because Age of Calamity story started off fairly normally. Then, at about the halfway point, you start to realize that this probably isn't actually a prequel. The story begins at the time of the Calamity. If you've watched my video, you'd know that the Mini Guardian is found in Zelda's room and he sends himself back in time so that the story can begin. Link is just another soldier in the army, which, by the way, is weird because he doesn't wear the helmet at first. And I guess that's because you can change his style, but still. This is just like the original Hyrule Warriors. After being given a pep talk by the king, the battle starts. Halfway through, the Mini Guardian awakes, and Impa causes a tower to arise in Hyrule Field, which, may I add, is in an area that looks nothing like the ruins by the actual Hyrule Field Tower. This is where you are introduced to runes. The rest of the fight is pretty standard. However, the next fight is a lot more interesting. A Guardian attacks and you are told not to engage. However, like the rebel I am, I engaged, and I killed it, and I won. Not how you're supposed to beat this level, but that's how I did it. The fight itself isn't the interesting part, but the ending cutscene is. You see a bad version of the Mini Guardian at the end of this fight. Spoiler alert, my theories were confirmed. After this, you go and gather the champions. I started with Daruk because my good friend Random Number Generator told me so. This fight sees you clearing out the monster from Death Mountain. I'm in take control of Divine Beast Vah Rudania. Yeah, these are actually really fun segments. And while this is early on, I sucked at these. Later on, I absolutely destroyed everything in my path, though. I next went to Mipha to rescue baby Sidon. Yes, I needed to make this distinction. Here we're introduced to a Lynel, and holy crap, I was way too cocky. They made Lynels faster and changed the photo rush timings like I mentioned before. Not to mention that they added new attacks. I can even beat gold Lynels with ease in Breath of the Wild, but most of the time not even getting hit. But with these, I can't do that. These Lynels mess me up. They're a lot faster, hit like a truck, no matter what. This Lynel gave me a bit of trouble before I finally downed the darn thing. I was treated with such an adorable scene.
Sidon! Why would you try to fight that beast alone? so worried about you. But still, I am proud. What a brave little brother I have.
I'm then treated to another Divine Beast segment, this time with Divine Beast Varuta. Next, I wanted to see Ravioli. Ravioli, like mentioned before, started off as a bad guy. He sticks Rita's soldiers on you and even fights himself. He's a serious pain in the neck to fight, and while I had a lot of fun running around Hebra and jumping off cliffs, this fight just ticked me off. Kinda like Ravioli himself. I finally went to Urbosa. At first, it seemed like they're pulling a Ravioli and making Urbosa a villain, but no. It's Master Koga disguised as Urbosa. You find out that after slaughtering several Gerudo, but that's beside the point. After a bit, Urbosa joins you herself. You scare off the Yiga clan with a Molduga before taking on Koga himself. This is not the last time you'll see him either. He's in a lot of the smaller battles on the map. Once all the champions were gathered together, and you've seen enough of these beautiful story screens, you can finally get into the meat of the story. After this, an army of Yiga attacks you on your way back. This is your introduction to Suga, and he's legitimately almost as difficult as Lynel. No kidding. Plus, I got stuck fighting him with a spear, which I was not expecting. The group, realizing the urgency of the situation, and because the king told them to, heads to Korok Forest to find the Master Sword. Hester greets them and helps them through the forest. This is your first interaction with Malice and Hallows. Basically dark versions of characters from the first game, however with the Master Sword they're a joke. The Hallows that appear here take the form of the champions. You have to defeat them to unblock the Malice. Once you do, Link pulls the Master Sword, seemingly instinctively. But before they can celebrate, the new character, Aster, who you would have seen in several cutscenes before, attacks. This is where you can test out the Master Sword's capabilities. Aster flees like a little baby afterwards. The group is attacked by monsters on the way home, and they're swiftly dealt with. Then, the group decides to take on the Yiga while they're down. Boris clears the path, and you run in and absolutely demolish the entire Yiga clan within the mission, which leads to the most memorable cutscene with Master Koga.
Look what you did. Well, I don't mind. I don't mind one itsy bitsy bit. And do you know why?
Because your thread's about to get cut.
And I'm the shears. Snip, snip! Hey! Yes! What a relief it will be! You meddlers are out of the picture! Today! Right now, in fact! The stupendous chief of the Yiga clan, Master Koga, is gonna kill you all to death!
While this is going on, Robbie and Purah, oh yeah, they're here, are analyzing the Mini-Guardians records and learn that Calamity Ganon will return on Zelda's 17th birthday. The king decides to send Zelda to the Spring of Courage to awaken her power. It doesn't work, and the group is instead attacked. They flee with nothing much getting done. Robbie and Purah continue to examine the Guardian, but almost get captured by Yiga spies. Meanwhile, Aster is sacrificing Yiga members to Calamity Ganon and winds up killing Suga, but not Koga. The Mini-Guardian escapes and returns to Sheikah Slate as Calamity Ganon awakens. This level is extremely difficult and for good reason. You're fleeing from a fight you can't handle, and boy, you can't handle it. By the end of it, King Rome dies by Guardian. Zelda cries outside the castle. The devs then pull out a Zelda's Lullaby, making BOTW's world a real Zelda world. Game theory.
Everything I've done. Ultimately, all of it was for naught.
I'm kidding. Impa and Zelda then learn about Calamity Ganon taking control of the Divine Beasts in Breath of the Wild. Zelda commits to not let that happen. The Mini-Guardian shoots the laser into the sky, to everyone's confusion. She then attempts to help the champion as they're trapped. You're actually unable to use them, level them up, or even combine their weapons until they're freed. This is where Sidon, Yunobo, Riju, and Teba come in. The mini-guardians summon them from the future. Spoiler alert, by the time this game ends, it's no longer the future. During these next two stages, you get to try out one of the descendant characters each, and you fight two of the Blights each. These are challenging, and they showcase the abilities of the descendants very well. During a few smaller battles, Aster attempts to kill Link, but Zelda is able to awaken her power and down the Blights that Aster had summoned. After a pep talk, the army gets ready to take back Hyrule Castle. Master Koga pulls Zelda aside and begs to join Zelda, as to avenge Suga. They first travel to the Great Plateau to gain a bit of momentum. And there we learn that King Rome isn't actually dead. He used a guardian shield that Zelda had given him earlier to survive, and now he joins the party. Afterwards, Vanda Boris clears a way up to Castletown and the battle begins. The battle starts off pretty normally, but halfway through a blood moon revives the monsters, making you fight them again. After crushing them for a second time, you climb up to the castle. First, you take out all 4 Blights. Then you have the choice to either take on the evil mini-guardian, now known as Harbinger Ganon, or Aster. You need to fight both, but whichever one you take on first is up to you. After taking both on, Harbinger Ganon turns the mini-guardian against you and absorbs Aster to become Calamity Ganon. This mini-guardian packs a punch, and he made me grind to beat him, so I hated the little bugger. I came back to beat him to the floor. Little bugger deserved it. He had it coming.
Mother? You're not going to leave me too, right, Terako? Father, no! Please don't take it away!
The return of the Calamity has been foretold. As the Princess of Hyrule, your sole focus must be on your training. A toy such as this is merely a distraction.
Please! Please!
I'm sorry.
You can't do this to me, game. I hate this little piece of crap. You can't make me feel bad about him. This is unfair. Ugh. Anyway, you enter the final battle with the humanoid Calamity Ganon that had been formed minutes earlier. This fight is intense. I wish the metal music had come back for this fight, but still. At first you're unable to hurt it, but after the mini-guardian sacrifices himself... God dang it, I really wanted to hate that thing. So you can hit it. This is a tough fight, no doubt about it. But I finally brought it down. The malice is removed, Guardians restored, and peace returns. The Descendants return to their own time, and the main story concludes. Post-game includes doing more map tasks to try to repair the mini guardian by doing said tasks. I'll let you all discover that for yourself if you haven't already. If you couldn't tell, the story gets very confusing by the end. I don't think it's bad per se, but I have no idea how it fits into the timeline, or if it does at all. I'm probably gonna have to make another theory video. That'll probably be in 2021 though. Anyway, I really like this story a lot. I honestly think that the time travel shenanigans would have worked if they were not included in the Champions Balance DLC, instead of what we got. Part of me wishes that this is what we got instead of what we actually got, but then we wouldn't have this off-the-walls, absolutely bonkers story that was so much fun to experience. If you couldn't tell, I love this game so much. In fact, I give it a 10 out of 10. I'm genuinely considering whether or not this is my new favorite game of all time. If you can, get this game. There's a demo available for you to try it, and you can even carry your save data over. This video is already long enough, so I'm going to let you guys go as you please. There's a full 8 pages of script here, you know. That's all I got, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Take care, guys.